Well, good day, guys. Coming to you again today. This will be a different video of any that I've done thus far. I've shared with you on the organ here before, but we're going to do a video today with the help of the Lord. I want to do a video regarding the Hammond organ itself and explaining just a little bit about this organ, a little bit of the history of it. And you know, we just celebrated our nation's birthday this past week, and so I thought it would be a great time just to talk about a little history of the Hammond organ itself. I'm going to share a few things, just a few notes that I've jotted down based on its history, and tell you just a little bit about it, and I'll show you just a few things I think that are unique to it as well. And so we're going to get right into the video, and hopefully I'll be able to talk to you just a little bit about it. And before I do, I want to get the camera and I'll move it around over here so I want to show you some different aspects of this organ that makes it kind of unique to its own self. And so give me just a second.
We're sitting here at the manual. This is the actual manual. We have a 2-manual organ. We have a 25-note pedal board that has well, this one's not concave. There is the model, I can't remember what the name is, but it is a concave pedal board, a lot like a pipe organ. This is the Leslie switch down here that controls the fast and slow on it. These are our drawbars. They are 2 sets per keyboard. These down here control this upper keyboard, and these right here will control the lower keyboard. And these are your presets for each keyboard. Right now I have 2 sets of these that I set myself. I use this setting right here. That setting, I think, right there for the choir, along with this setting for the choir. I think I'm telling you right. This setting for the lower keyboard, I just play as a solo when I'm just doing a solo song. And so just thought I would show you that. You can control these tones, these different tones, by how far in or out you set these. And God, the skies is unlimited to the tones and sounds that can be made through the use of these tone wheel drawbars. Now, with that being said, there's a lot of history involved in making this organ. So I'm going to set the camera back down, and we're going to talk a little bit about that here in just a moment.
Regarding the Hammond organ, sometime between 1934 and 35, the world was introduced to the Hammond organ. Lawrence Hammond, a clockmaker and inventor, had just recently filed for a patent on this musical instrument in April of 1934. The Hammond organ was created it was actually created in the height of the Great Depression. So folks were conscious of how much money they were spending at the time, and this was very influential to the smaller middle-class churches that could not afford a pipe organ. And it was a great alternative to the pipe organ as a cost-effective alternative. The difference of cost between the Hammond organ at that time, the Hammond would cost about $1,500, whereas a mighty pipe organ would cost about $70,000 in 1935. And compare that to today's dollar sign as well. The first model rolled off the assembly line was the Model A. It is said that Hammond's first #1 serial number went to a dealer in Kansas City, Missouri, and was used as a traveling demonstrator. And upon its retirement, it went to the Smithsonian Museum in Washington, D.C., where it resides today. One interesting note was that once the patent was filed, Henry Ford was the first one to make an order to Lawrence Hammond. He ordered 6 organs, as a matter of fact, but he did not get the very first organ, as to what some folks may say. But he has, I think there is one of those organs still on display at the Henry Ford Museum in Dearborn, Michigan. But growing in popularity, the Hammond still needed something to give it its place in history. Now, it did become an icon. It did become something that people was excited about, but it still lacked its luster. It still lacked its voice, its own voice. It had the tone of an organ, but not a pipe organ. So it needed something to give it its place in history. The Leslie speaker. In 1941, a gentleman by the name of Don Leslie brought his invention to Mr. Hammond. The Leslie speaker was a unique invention by Don Leslie. Using what's known as the Doppler effect, using a rotating horn and baffle, creating movement in the sound. Bingo, the legend was born. Don used a rotary horn for the high-end sounds and a rotary baffle for the bass, creating a tremulant, which is known in pipe organ term, a tremulant. Pitch-changing vibrato, volume-changing tremolo, and a little whoosh of moving air, all put together. Not exactly the sound of a pipe organ, but a lush, rich, distinctive sound of its own. This, my friends, is where the Hammond really began its life. Don Leslie and Mr. Hammond never agreed on the new invention. Primarily, Mr. Hammond wanted his organ made for churches. And that's where it found its way, in churches to begin with. But once Don Leslie's invention became married to this console, guys, it became an icon, an American icon. Rock bands, jazz, classical, country, even I've heard it on bluegrass. Guys, you'll find this music from the 50s all the way up to present day. You'll find the Hammond organ in its place. The organ was synonymous with rock bands, jazz, as well as the gospel world too. Elvis Presley, his organist, Bobby Emmons, was a Hammond B3 organist. Some great gospel organists such as Jimmy Smith, Jimmy Swaggart, and another gentleman he's very well known as a great pianist, but you very seldom hear anything about him being an organist, was my favorite of all time, Floyd Kramer. He did a video, I think it was on YouTube at one time, called Let's Get Organized. So, guys, just saying that's just a little bit. This is just a quick thing that I can give you regarding the history of the Hammond organ. The sound amplification deals with a tube amp inside this organ itself. Now, this organ here is a Hammond A100, made in 1959. The amp that is in this one works off of vacuum tubes, just like on the older TVs from the days of the 50s and 60s. The amp, the cable that goes over to the Leslie, and I'll show you that in just a moment. The cable that goes over there is actually amp inside of the Leslie. That steps up the sound from the organ itself, which gives it a much louder, a much fuller sound. We're going to look at that here in just a moment. I'm going to get the camera set up. I want you to see inside this Leslie speaker. I've took the back cover off so that you can look at that, and I want to show that to you. So I'm going to pause the video for just a moment till I get rearranged. Okay, guys, in keeping with our Independence Day celebration, I'm going to try to do the song, The Battle Hymn of the Republic. Thank you, guys, from Little NC Farmer.